back to my channel. Today I am going to create a tall skinny art journal. I've wanted one this size for a long time and I just decided that I would make my own. So I hope you enjoy the video. Come on along and see how I did it. So I started out, I had this really long piece of real heavy chipboard that came in packaging of some sort. I don't remember what it was protecting, but I cut it in half, so I have two long tall pieces, a front and a back cover. And I decided I would use some watercolor paper. This is 140 pound 9 by 12. So I needed to measure and figure out what size was going to fit inside these covers. So 6 inches wide is the maximum that I could make these pages. So I just took each sheet and marked it off for the width, and yep, then I laid my ruler down against the marks and just bent the watercolor paper up against the edge of the ruler so that I would have a straight crease that I could just fold over, and then I used my bone folder to make the crease nice and tight. And then later on I will cut those flaps down, the short flap down to 1 inch. But at this stage I was still trying to figure out how am I going to do pages inside of this, because I knew that that chipboard was way too heavy to try to bind through all the pages and the covers. So I knew I was going to have to try to figure something out, and as my usual, I just kind of figure it out on the fly. So this is what I came up with. So I have all of the flaps cut down to 1 inch, and I am just going to put some glue on the back of the flap, and then I will attach it to, that's like the second page, and I will attach it to the first page to make a 2-page spread. So I'm just smoothing that glue down so I don't have ridges. And I didn't realize how fast this glue, it really grabs fast. And after I put the glue on each page, I have to wipe the glue off my finger because I have a tendency to get glue everywhere anyways. So I'm just using that fold from the first page as my guide and laying the flap from the second page up against that fold. It seems a little bit odd, I guess, but it's what I came up with on the fly. I think it'll work just fine for my purposes. So I had quite a few pages prepared and cut down, and I just did the same thing, just went along with each one. I think I have maybe 9 pages altogether. So then when I get to the end, I'm going to just glue that end flap. So then I took my crocodile and punched holes in the front and back covers so that I can lace those together. And I just used that red Sharpie so that when I line up the punch on the crocodile, I'll be able to see it easier. I can see that red dot, and then I know that I'm in the right place. So I just went along and punched, I think, like every 2 inches down the length of the cover. So I'm just figuring out how much leeway do I have. I'm hoping that I have enough space to lace that cover onto the pages. So there you can see all the pages put together, and I just wrapped a scrap piece of scrapbooking paper around them. I'll deal with that later, but I just wanted to kind of bind them all together. So I just laid the one cover on top of the other, and I'm marking the holes so that they're all punched in the same place for both front and back, and then punched all of those out. And checking to make sure that they line up front to back, and they did, so yay. So there was a lot of contemplation along the way, trying to figure out, okay, what do I do next? What'll work? What do I have? Because I just wanted to use what I had. Used up some of that scrapbook paper that I wasn't using. Put some of those in as pages. So I'm just trying to figure out if I have enough room to get some binding in there before I glue the pages to that back cover. So that's what I'm doing. I'm marking where I want to lay that group of pages in once I get the glue on. So in this, I'm using the Ultimate Glue by Crafter's Pick. It's my absolute favorite because it will stick anything to anything, and it grabs really fast. You don't have to wait or worry that it's going to slide. So then I'm just lining that group of pages up with the marks that I made on the cover and getting that glued in. Probably the most unorthodox way to make a journal, but like I said, as always, I kind of figure things out as I go. I don't do much planning except for along the way, so sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But it's just a journal for me, and it will be fine for what I wanted it for. I've just been wanting a journal this size, just long, skinny pages, for quite a while, and I just thought, oh, why not make my own? So fortunately, I had that nice heavy chipboard that's going to be perfect for the covers. So I'm just making sure everything's lined up, and too bad if it isn't, because like I said, that glue dries really fast. You can see I'm trying to move it just a little bit and it already won't move. So it is what it is. But it's a nice size, and I can maybe add some pages later if I want to, but as it is, it's going to be hard to close. I'm going to have to put some kind of a closure on. So now I'm just using a length of that hemp cord, and I figured it out again as I went. I wasn't real sure how I was going to lace this up. So I just started by pulling that front piece through first because that needed to be knotted, which you didn't see. And then I'm just going from the front to the back, and then over, or from the back to the front, and then over the top, and then from the back to the front again. And then skipping over the top and going from the inside back to the outside back. And that gave me a different look for the binding, both on the front and the back. And then just straight binding stitches across the spine. And I think that's going to work. I wish I had done it a little bit looser. That would have allowed me to have a little more leeway as far as closing the book. It's pretty tight, and I don't think I'll be able to add pages later because there's just not enough room. I can always unlace it and relace it again, because that front will come off, so I can take them apart. The pages are glued to the back, but that wouldn't make any difference. So the hemp cord had a tendency to kind of curl and then want to tangle, so I fought with it a little bit, but not too bad. There, I let the needle twirl around and untangle the cording. So back to front, and then inside back to outside back. And it worked really well. And I don't know if it's an actual way to do things, but it's what I figured out to do, and it worked. So I'm happy with it. And I did the same thing when I got to the bottom, but then I brought it back through to the front because I want a long piece on the top and a long piece on the bottom. I'm going to attach, I don't know, beads, or I'll do some kind of dangle on the front. So I brought the cording back to the front. Actually, that's the front. And then I just went from right to left through that bottom loop and made a knot. And then I went left to right. And in my mind, that made a square knot. I don't know if it did or not, but it's nice and tight. So that's what I was hoping to do. I didn't want a knot that was going to end up coming loose. So and I just trimmed the ends of the threads off a little bit. I didn't want them real long. And that was it. Basically done. It opens, it lays flat, and I'm happy with it. If I had it to do over again, I would not have the scrapbook paper mixed in with the watercolor paper so that when you open it, you have one on one side and one on the other side of the same spread. So then I just added that great big black button to the front, because then I'll be able to do a closure, a wrap-around closure around that button. So this, I don't know how it got sped up, but it got sped up in the camera. But I'm just adding clear gesso to the outside covers. And I also added those two little grommets on the front corners just for a little more embellishment. So then I went to my scrap pile and just pulled out a whole bunch of pieces that were similar in color, just pieces that I liked, and I'm going to collage over the whole front cover. I did a dry lay first and then just moved them off to the side so that I could pick them back up in the same way that I had them laid down, was what, you know, in a way that I liked. And I'm just using matte medium and putting them all down, covering the whole thing pretty much. So let me know in the comments if you've made your own journals. I've done a couple other ones and I really enjoy the process. What I like the best about it is that I can really customize the size, the types of paper that's inside, make the cover however I want it to look, and I don't know, I just really like, it's just all mine that way. I do have, you know, journals that I've bought and I enjoy using them, especially my Dilutions journal. I really love that one. But every once in a while I just feel like making one, and I have so much just packaging and stuff that I can use up in the process, so it's a win-win. That little piece of tea-dyed vellum gave me fits. It just, I didn't mind the wrinkles, that was fine, but it just kept wanting to lift up and I had to keep pushing it down. And at one point, I think right about now, I just got fed up with it lifting and ripped some of it off because it wouldn't stay down. Oh, maybe that part got cut out. Oh no, I think it's here. Yeah, there we go. I was trying to push it down with that card and it just wouldn't stay. So Then I decided, it's all dry now, and I just am taking some white gesso on a palette knife, and I'm just going to scrape some gesso here and there across the papers. And I realized after I covered that salvaged piece up that I wanted to be able to see that word, so I just wiped it back. But I really like adding gesso like this. I think it just helps bring everything together so it doesn't look quite so fragmented. And it gives some nice texture as well. So this, especially the Studio 71 gesso, is real thick. So I get a little texture from it. And I'm just wiping off some that is in places where I didn't want it. And just cleaning up the edges. So I got these Tim Holtz stamps at Tuesday Morning for like $4, right? Good deal. And I really like they're like blueprint kind of images. They have the little measurement lines and numbers on them. So this was kind of a steampunk looking set. I don't remember what the name of it was, but there were 4 little stamps in the set. So I thought I'll just use the archival ink in sepia and just put some stamps on here too to just kind of fill in some little spaces that might need a little extra something. Love the top hat. It didn't end up really showing up very well, but I still like it. And now I have some burnt umber. I think it's, no, it's, oh, I can't think, I can't think of what it's called. Anyway, some fluid acrylic, and I have quite a bit of water in my brush, and I'm just going around the edges first to kind of darken those up and smearing it with my finger, getting down in the little bit of texture that was created with the gesso. And I liked it so well that I thought I'm just going to dry brush over the whole rest of the cover, and it really brought everything together really well. I left little bits of the white gesso peeking out here and there and dried it off. And now I have some sequin waste and a stencil brush, and I'm just going to, burnt sienna is the color I was trying to think of, go back into that burnt sienna paint and just add some dots here and there. I prefer working with a stencil brush most of the time. I feel like I have better control of the amount of paint that I'm putting down, and I get a more even application than I do with those little makeup sponges. So I do like my stencil brushes. They're all probably 25 years old, but if you take care of them, they last a really, really long time. So they're worth the investment. And you'll see me kind of wiping at the edges of some of these stenciled dots. I didn't want that hard line that I got. If I had turned it over, I would have gotten that cut edge, and I liked it better. So I'm just smearing it out a little bit so it's not quite so crisp. Could have sped this part up. I thought I did, but I'm almost done with it. And I know there's no real focal point on this cover, which usually I do when I do a collage type piece like this, then I'll have one focal point. But I just really liked it. It just kind of indicative of my style and the kinds of things that I like to do. I can always add something later if I decide to, but I just kind of like it the way it is. And I have this Prima stamp, and I thought it needs a little more darkness, especially to go with that black button. So I'm just using the archival ink in jet black, and I'm just going to stamp a little bit on top of this. The text on this stamp just never comes out very well. But I got the pointing hand and a little bit of the other side on that first print, and then concentrated more on the text because that was really what I wanted. And the dots, I just a little bit here and there just to add a little more contrast. So that was just enough. I like it like that. And then for the final touch, I thought I'll just add some splatters, and I started with that Titan Buff and it didn't work. It was too thin, so I switched to just some regular white acrylic. And you can't really see it very much on camera. You'll see it at the end. I have some photos at the end, so you'll see it there. And that's it. I'm sure you'll see me working in this journal on and off. I will do the back cover and the insides at another point in time. So I hope you enjoyed watching the process. If you did, give this video a big thumbs up and maybe share it with a friend or a Facebook group. And in the meantime, go make some art. Bye.